You remind me of the great Roman Emperor, Constantine the Great. This emperor, your dear Mr. President, is the one who founded and built the magnificent city of Constantinople, my birthplace, known today as Istanbul. It is my great honor to present you with this holy cross. This cross is the very symbol that led this great Roman Emperor Constantine to victory. With this cross, I pray you bring peace to the world and make America invincible.
What God deems as true is the truth, and truth cannot be hidden. Many have noted the similarities of American history and Roman Republican history, and speculate that the greatest nation of the world, the USA, shall pursue an identical historical trajectory. Many of those so-called experts on the interweb are arguing that America will fall like Rome. But oh no, those godless commentators could not be more wrong. Because, verily I tell you, that God has designated the United States of America as the successor of the Roman Empire, as its new life, and America shall not only survive this difficult century, but prosper like never before and reign for ages and ages until Judgment Day. America is the third and final Rome. Don't believe Russian propaganda. The seat of empire moved from old to new Rome in Constantinople. It has now, with divine help, migrated to the New World, in New Rome, Washington, D.C. And the divinely appointed vicar of Christ on earth, the greatest, the best, the one and only, President Donald J. Trump, 45th and 47th hegemon of this land of God, chosen by God, supported by the greatest people in the world, the Americans, is none other than a direct descendant of the holiest Saint Emperor Constantine the Great, first Christian emperor of Rome. What more legitimacy could you need, O disbelieving atheist? When Archbishop Elpidophoros rightly praised Emperor Donald in his palace, the White House, 1 week ago, for upholding Christian values, defending Christianity, and making America, or that is to say Rome, invincible, rendering Lord Trump comparable to the most blessed Constantine, he was not merely commenting on the personal virtues of our most esteemed president, which are alike to that of Constantine, nor was the Archbishop only acutely pointing out that the grandeur of our eminent American sovereign's deeds in this world, assailed by satanic forces like those barbarians in the East, are of the same magnitude as those achieved by the most perfect of all Roman emperors. For it was none other than God-loving Constantine who rid the Roman Empire of its internal rot and external predators, and finally restored love and peace to God's kingdom on earth after a tumultuous 3rd century crisis. Oh no, my dear, the bishop is wiser than you may comprehend, for he saw clearly that this most excellent of men, who rose through the administration of the most excellent of states, possessed about him a most noble countenance, betraying his most imperial blood. President Donald J. Trump is none other than a direct descendant of this Christian emperor, inheriting from his ancestor every merit. And I have solid genealogical proof to back this all up. As you know, America is the leading country in the world when it comes to science and knowledge. That's why we are so powerful. Because our scientific method is sound. Because our confidence is rooted in facts. We are just like Rome in this regard. Get ready for a long ride, because we have much to cover. Now we'll take it from the beginning to the end of how the illustrious royal blood of Constantine the Great flowed through many veins until it reached that of his most accomplished scion, Donald the Great, the real president ordained by God, who triumphed over the machinations of Crooked Hillary, Sleepy Joe, and Comet Camilla, and now rightfully claimed his place as the new Roman Emperor. Many monarchs have laid claim to be of such a heritage, but few prove its veracity. Constantine had many sons, but of their generation we know little. But we may believe the word of a past expert, Patriarch Photius of Constantinople. This most learned polymath, at the behest of Emperor Basil I the Macedonian, who was, mind you, a man of humble beginnings just like our president, a living example of the American dream, known back in the 9th century as the Roman dream. Ahem. Yes, the point is, Photius used his expertise in the affairs of royal houses to construct, for the new emperor, his completely testifiable, no-nonsense family tree, a genealogy which traced back the seemingly lowly Macedonian peasant's ancestry back to none other than the first Christian kings of East and West, the Arsacids of Armenia, and you guessed it, smarty pants, Constantine. And if you cannot believe a patriarch, who can you believe? Let this then be known as the one truth, that the Macedonian emperors were all by blood direct offspring of Emperor Constantine the Great, legitimate heirs to his throne in Constantinople. And any heir to a Macedonian imperial scion is an heir to Constantine himself, and rightfully Emperor of Constantinople, of Rome, and subsequently of the world. For those loyal viewers who watched my video last year in which I also discussed this unblemished truth that the government didn't want you to know, you will know that the Macedonian dynasty ended with Emperor Basil II, at least on paper. But my unassailably logical reasoning has definitively proven that the Macedonian and Constantinian blood continued flowing through Basil's secret descendant, the Komnenoi, thus rendering legitimacy to the state of France. Not to get into details here, we are now focusing on America. Let us consider for a moment that Basil, although elder, was not only who held the scepter of New Rome and had the noble genes of Constantine. Basil had a brother, a more beautiful and popular brother, who shared the throne with him through his entire reign, and outlived the Bulgar Slayer, becoming undisputedly the longest ever reigning Roman emperor, period. And his name was Constantine, like his most great namesake. Emperor Constantine the Great was the last male emperor of the Macedonian dynasty who was actually by blood a Constantinian and Macedonian, and unlike his brother Basil, Constantine the Great fulfilled his duty of publicly procreating that lineage, giving birth to 3 gracious ladies worthy of the throne themselves, Eudokia, Zoe, and Theodora. The 3 last Macedonians carried with them the burden of continuing the bloodline of Constantine, but Eudokia and Theodora followed their uncle Basil in celibacy, and only Zoe learned of her duties, actively seeking a partner in the imperial purple and holy matrimony. And all of those emperors she elevated through her grace were disappointments who failed to provide an heir. So Lady Zoe, ever conscious of her destiny, began looking for alternatives, giving rise to scandals and gossip about her private life from court writers such as the degenerate Michael Psellos. She was selflessly pursuing the interest of the state and the Roman people. The ideal partner she found, however, was not a Roman, but a foreigner, a man attracted to God's favored kingdom on earth to seek a fortune, a man who leveraged fate and opportunity and rose to great heights despite his origin. Another man who lived the American Roman dream, Harald Hardrada, future king of Norway. Harald had voyaged from that harsh land, and his harsh temperance proved crucial in his career as a Varangian guard. He fought altruistically for the Roman Empire and for God, to whom he always showed profound respect. And the snobby Romans did not report this in their historical writings, for they were ashamed of their own virility being overshadowed by that of a man they thought to be of a barbarian land. So they hid this affair, and this was not recorded. Even modern historians attempt to hide this truth, that Harold and Zoe were romantically entangled, and they had a son. Oh, shocking, isn't it? The real historians, the scouts who followed Harold and noted his heroics in the empire, sang about this love in their sagas. And who is this son they had, the new bearer of the Constantinian legacy? Well, no one says anything, but it doesn't take a genius to figure it out. Harold had two sons, the future kings, Magnus II and Olaf III. But their mother is very uncertain, especially since Harold had two wives as well at the same time. So, what was he trying to hide so hard that he was willing to enter a bigamous relation to cover? To sin in the eyes of his pious people? Obviously, to protect the identity of his sons, true descendants of Constantine the Great. Harold was already locked in conflict with usurpers to his throne. Imagine if they heard that his children were gifts from God to share the blood of the great Constantine. The boys would be in even greater danger. Thus, it must be true that Olaf and Magnus Haraldsson were secretly Zoe's sons, and their descendants also are of Constantine's line. Olaf sired King Magnus III the Barefoot, who fathered many illegitimate sons too. One of them, called Harald Gile, became Harald IV of Norway and begot King Sigurd II Moon, who begot Sverri Sigurdsson. They were both illegitimate children, but the Constantinian genes in them are not fake at all. Sverri himself seized the throne of Norway and began his Sverri dynasty, a long line of Norwegian kings until we got to King Håkon V, the last male king on this list. His daughter, Ingeborg, then continued Håkon's lineage in Norway, giving birth to the next king, Magnus, but also to a daughter, Euphemia, a princess of Norway and Sweden. And from Euphemia, we get her descendant a century later, the Danish king, Christian I, founder of the dynasty of Oldenburg, a powerful dynasty which still rules Denmark today, but have also graced other countries with their enlightened rule in the past. And now everything is a breeze, because according to the super reliable genealogy source online, Christian I was the ancestor of King James IV of Scotland, who was the ancestor of the Scotswoman Mary Ann MacLeod Trump. And yes, this immigrant lady to the United States of America was none other than the Blessed Matron, the mother of our President, Donald J. Trump the Great. And thus, what have we learned? That not only was Donald to lead us to greatness from his personal qualities, his representation of the American people, but he was already predestined to be the new Constantine, a new Roman emperor in the New World. Through his descent from his mother, whose noble Scottish ancestry traces from King Christian of Denmark, who through his mother, Hedwig of Holstein, is a descendant of Princess Euphemia, of Ingeborg too, daughter of King Håkon V of Norway, direct offspring of the Hardrada dynasty and their patriarch, the legendary King Harald, nicknamed Hardrada, a noble warrior who traveled from the icy islands of the north to the most fertile and most favored empire of God in the south, to carry on the line of Zoe Porphyrogeniti, Constantine the VIII, Basil I the Macedonian, and their illustrious progenitor, who is also the pioneer of the wonderful Christian world we live in today, Flavius Valerius Constantinus, Imperator Romanorum. It was no coincidence that Donald came back after every challenge from the jealous lips, the meddling foreigners. He has it in him, the resolve of steel inherited from Constantine. And as America is coming out of a chaotic age, marked by political polarization, division, godlessness, and other innumerable vices, Donald will leave America to a new golden age as Constantine did to Rome. Already, Washington, D.C. was modeled on the city of Old Rome, as was Constantinople. For this, we thank the founding fathers of this glorious nation who sought to imitate and restore Rome. But a new era for Rome began with Constantine, the era of New Rome, of Constantinople. And a new era will begin for America, the new Rome, under the new Constantine, the one and only sole Christian emperor of the world, Emperor Trump. And he shall conquer and put low all the foes of America and Rome. Anyone who tells you otherwise is a Chinese spot spreading fake news. Alright, now you know. God bless America.